She had built an empire that touched every corner of America, a woman whose name made stock markets move and boardrooms go silent. But on a rainy Tuesday afternoon in a small, humming laundromat in Ohio, Victoria Hale, the billionaire, stood completely frozen. Not because of a deal gone wrong, because her 7-year-old daughter, Lily, who had not spoken a single word in 3 years, had just walked up to a tired man in a faded navy t-shirt and whispered, "Are you okay?" Lily was silent. Doctors called it selective mutism after trauma. Her mother called it her greatest heartbreak. And for 3 long years, no specialist, no therapist, no amount of money could get Lily to speak again. Until that moment. Until a stranger. Until him. If you believe in the quiet, powerful moments that can change a life forever, you're in the right place. Please take a second to subscribe to Kindness Waves, hit the like button, and leave a comment telling us where you're watching from today. Your kindness is what keeps these stories alive, and we are so grateful you are here. Victoria Hale was not born into money. She grew up in a small trailer park outside of Dayton, Ohio, where the roof leaked when it rained and dinner was often just white bread with butter. Her mother worked double shifts at a diner, and her father left before she could remember his face. She learned early that if she wanted a different life, she would have to build it herself brick by brick. She studied while other kids partied. She worked nights cleaning offices while she put herself through college. And at 24, with a secondhand laptop and $100 in her bank account, she started her first company from that same trailer. That company became 2 companies, and then 10. By the time she was 35, Victoria Hale was on the cover of magazines. Her tech logistics company was worth billions. She owned homes in New York and California and London, but she kept her main office in Columbus, Ohio, because she never wanted to forget where she came from. From the outside, her life looked perfect, like the American dream that everyone talks about. But dreams can have cracks that no one else can see. When Victoria was 38, she married Daniel, an architect. He was charming and kind, and for a little while, she thought she had finally found the kind of love that felt safe. They had a beautiful baby girl they named Lily. Lily had her mother's bright eyes and her father's soft smile. She was a happy, bubbly, talkative little girl who loved to sing in the car and ask a million questions a day. Then, when Lily was 4 years old, Daniel died suddenly in a car accident on his way home from work. It was a rainy night, much like this one. The police came to the door, and in that one moment, Victoria's world stopped turning. Lily did not cry at the funeral. She just went quiet. At first, Victoria thought it was shock that her little girl just needed time. But days turned into weeks, and weeks turned into months. Lily stopped talking at school. She stopped talking at home. She stopped singing in the car. She would nod, she would point, she would draw pictures, but no sound would come out. The most expensive child psychologists in the country sat with her. They tried play therapy, music therapy, speech therapy. Victoria flew in specialists from Boston and Los Angeles. Nothing worked. Victoria buried herself in work, because work was the only place she knew how to fix things. If a system was broken, you found the problem and you solved it. But she could not solve her daughter. The silence in their big, beautiful house in Columbus became heavier than any business problem she had ever faced. Lily was now 7, in 2nd grade, a sweet and smart little girl who wrote perfect little notes to her mother like, "I love you, Mommy, and good night," but whose voice her mother had not heard in 3 years. Victoria would sometimes sit outside Lily's bedroom door at night, just listening, praying to hear even a little hum. That Tuesday, Victoria's driver was sick, and her assistant was out of town. Lily's private school had an early dismissal because of a water leak, and Victoria had to pick her up herself. It was raining hard. Lily had spilled grape juice all over her school uniform that morning, and she needed a clean dress for a small school play rehearsal later that day. Victoria, who had not done her own laundry in 15 years, saw a small, bright laundromat on the corner called Sunny Suds and pulled over. It was the kind of place she had known so well as a child. The laundromat was warm and smelled like clean soap and fabric softener. A few washers were humming loudly. Fluorescent lights buzzed overhead. And in the corner, sitting on a cracked plastic chair, was a man. He looked to be in his early 30s. He was tall, but he sat hunched over, his elbows on his knees, his head in his hands. He wore a faded dark blue t-shirt that said Navy in peeling letters, old jeans, and worn-out work boots. Next to him was a small laundry basket with only a few clothes in it, all for a little girl. A little pink dress, little socks with unicorns, a small white t-shirt. And on top of the basket was a tiny, broken toy. He did not look up when Victoria and Lily walked in. His shoulders were shaking just a little. He was crying, but trying so hard not to let anyone see. Victoria felt awkward. She was used to boardrooms, not moments like this. She started to put Lily's dress into a washer, keeping her distance, teaching her daughter by example to respect people's privacy. But Lily was not looking at her mother. Lily was looking at the man. Lily stared at him with those big, serious eyes. She looked at the little pink dress in the basket. She looked at his shaking shoulders. And then, before Victoria could stop her, Lily walked right up to him, her little white sneakers squeaking on the wet floor. Victoria's heart jumped in her throat. She wanted to pull Lily back, to say sorry, to not bother him. But something in Lily's walk stopped her. Lily had a purpose. Lily stood in front of the man and gently touched his arm. The man looked up, startled. His eyes were red. He had a kind, tired face, with a short beard and lines around his eyes that came from too much sun and too much worry. He looked at the little girl standing in front of him, confused. And then Lily, in a voice that was hoarse and small from not being used for 3 years, whispered, "Are you okay?" The world stopped. Victoria Hale, the woman who could handle hostile takeovers without flinching, froze. Her hand flew to her mouth. Tears instantly filled her eyes. That was Lily's voice. Her baby's voice. The voice she had not heard in over 1,000 days. It was soft and crackly, and the most beautiful sound she had ever heard. The man, whose name was Jake, was just as stunned. He was not expecting anyone to talk to him, especially not a little girl with such a serious, gentle question. He wiped his eyes quickly with the back of his hand, embarrassed. I'm trying to be sweetheart, he said, his voice thick. Thank you for asking. Victoria walked over slowly, her whole body trembling. She knelt down next to Lily, tears now streaming down her face. Lily, she whispered. Baby. Lily looked at her mother and then back at the man. She did not seem to realize what a huge thing she had just done. To her, there was just a sad person who needed someone to notice. Jake looked between the mother and daughter, seeing the tears on the mother's face, the shock in her eyes. He had no idea what was happening. He thought he had made the mother upset. I'm sorry, he said quickly. I didn't mean to. I was just having a hard day. My daughter, I'm sorry. Victoria shook her head, unable to speak for a moment. She reached out and took Lily's small hand. No, she managed to say, her voice breaking. No, please don't apologize. My daughter, she hasn't spoken in 3 years. 3 years. And she just spoke to you. Jake's mouth opened slightly. He looked down at Lily again, really looked at her this time. He saw her school uniform with the juice stain, her neat ponytail, her quiet eyes. I see, he said softly. He understood more than most people would. Sometimes it's easier to talk to a stranger, isn't it? He said directly to Lily, not in a baby voice, but like she was a person. Lily nodded a little. Victoria sat down on the hard plastic chair next to him, not caring that she was in an expensive business suit in a laundromat. Her heart was pounding. I'm Victoria, she said. Jake Miller, he said. Is this your daughter's laundry? Lily asked, pointing to the little pink dress. It was the second time she had spoken. Victoria almost gasped again. Yake smiled a sad smile. Yeah, that's my girl, Sophie. She's 6. She loves that pink dress, but she tore the pocket. I've been trying to fix it. I'm not very good at sewing. He held up the little dress, and sure enough, the pocket was hanging off. He explained that Sophie had been sick last week, and he had to miss 3 days of work at the warehouse to stay home with her. Because of that, his paycheck was short this month. He had just enough to do laundry and buy groceries, but the machine at his small apartment building was broken again. His wife, Sophie's mom, had passed away 2 years ago from an illness. Since then, it was just him and Sophie. He had been a Navy SEAL for 8 years before that. He had served his country. He had been strong for everyone else, But some days, being a single dad felt harder than any mission he had ever been on. He had not meant to cry in public. But this morning, Sophie had asked why her dress was still broken, and he had promised to fix it. And he sat there looking at that little pocket and felt like he was failing her. Lily listened to every word. She walked over to the laundry basket and carefully picked up the little pink dress. She looked at the torn pocket. "I can help," she said in her little whisper. She had a small sewing kit in her backpack. At her fancy private school, they had a little life skills class where they learned to sew a button. Lily was very good at it. She sat down on the floor, right there on the dirty laundromat floor, crossed her little legs, and started to work. Her tongue stuck out a little in concentration. Jake and Victoria watched, both completely silent, both with tears in their eyes for different reasons. Victoria had never seen her daughter show interest in anything for so long. Lily's therapist had said that she might be shutting out the world because she felt helpless after her father's death, that she needed to feel like she could help, like she could make a difference. And here she was, helping. In a few minutes, with careful, tiny stitches, Lily had sewn the little pocket back on. It was not perfect, but it was strong and neat. She stood up and handed the dress to Jake. "For Sophie," she whispered. Jake took the dress. His hands, big hands that had held rifles and carried teammates, were shaking. He looked at the small, careful stitches. And then he did something he had not done in a long time. He cried openly, not from sadness, but from gratitude. "Thank you," he whispered to Lily. "You have no idea what this means. Thank you so much." Lily just smiled, a real, small smile, and then she leaned against her mother's side. Victoria was sobbing quietly now. She looked at this man, this single dad, this veteran who was doing his best with so little, and she saw something she had not seen in a long time. Real strength. Not the kind of strength that comes from money or power, but the kind that comes from showing up every day, even when you're tired and broken. She did not want to offer him money. She knew what that felt like, when people think your problems can be solved with a check. It felt empty. She wanted to offer something more human. "Jake," she said, wiping her face. "My name is Victoria Hale. I have a company here in town. We're always looking for good, reliable people. People who know what hard work and loyalty mean. Would you let me tell you about a job? A better job than the warehouse? One with hours that would let you be home when Sophie gets out of school." Jake looked at her, surprised. "Ma'am, I don't need charity," he said, a little bit of that SEAL pride coming back. "It's not charity," Victoria said quickly. "I swear, it's good business. I need someone to run security and logistics for my local operations. Someone I can trust. Someone who knows how to lead and how to care for people. I saw how you talk to my daughter. With so much respect. That's the kind of person I want on my team. Would you at least come in for an interview? For Sophie." Jake looked down at the little pink dress in his hands, at Lily's careful stitches. He thought about his long hours at the warehouse, about Sophie eating dinner alone with a babysitter, about the pile of bills on his kitchen counter. He nodded slowly. "Yeah," he said. "Yeah, I would like that. Thank you." Lily tugged on her mother's sleeve and whispered, "Can Sophie come play sometime?" It was the third time she had spoken. Victoria laughed through her tears and hugged her daughter so tight. "Of course, baby. Of course she can." The next week was a whirlwind. Jake came in for the interview. He wore his only good shirt, ironed it 3 times. He was nervous, but he was honest and capable and strong in a quiet way. Victoria hired him on the spot. The job paid 3 times what the warehouse paid, with full benefits and normal hours. He could finally breathe. But more important than the job was what happened between the girls. Sophie and Lily met at a small park. Sophie was a whirlwind of energy, with curly hair and a loud laugh, the opposite of quiet Lily. But Sophie did not ask Lily why she didn't talk. She just took her hand and showed her how to make daisy chains. And for the first time in a long time, Lily laughed. A real, small giggle that made Victoria cry all over again in her car, where no one could see. Slowly, day by day, Lily started to speak more. First only to Jake and Sophie. She would whisper to Jake about her day. She would whisper to Sophie during their playdates. Then, one night at the dinner table, she looked at her mother and said, clear as day, "Mommy, can we have pasta?" Victoria dropped the spoon she was holding. She got up, walked around the table, and held her daughter for a very long time. Jake's kindness had unlocked something in Lily, and Victoria's kindness had changed Jake and Sophie's life. But the real change was in all of them. Victoria learned that she could not buy her daughter's voice back, but she could create a world where her daughter felt safe enough to use it again. She learned that being a billionaire meant nothing if you were too busy to sit on a laundromat floor. Jake learned that it was okay to accept help, that letting someone be kind to you is not weakness, it is strength. It takes a brave man to say, "I need help." And Lily learned that her voice mattered, that even a small whisper could make a sad person feel less alone. A few months later, Victoria held a small party at her house. It was not a fancy billionaire party with caterers and important people. It was a backyard barbecue. Jake manned the grill because he was great at it. Sophie and Lily ran around the yard chasing bubbles, their laughter mixing together in the warm Ohio air. Two little girls in little pink dresses, one with a carefully sewn pocket. Victoria stood back and watched them, her heart so full it felt like it might burst. She had spent her whole life thinking that success was about building higher walls to protect yourself. But real success, real richness, was about opening your door. Sometimes, the loudest act of kindness is just noticing someone who is trying not to be noticed. Sometimes, the bravest thing you can do is ask a stranger, "Are you okay?" And sometimes a little girl who has not spoken in 3 years can remind a billionaire and a Navy SEAL what truly matters in this life. So wherever you are today, look around. There is someone sitting quietly in the corner of your world, carrying something heavy. You might not be able to fix their whole life, but you can sew a pocket. You can ask if they are okay. You can offer a chair. You can share your bubbles. You never know whose voice you might bring back. You never know whose life you might change, including your own. Please remember to be kind today, because kindness is the one thing that never runs out, no matter how much you give away.